Hello friends! Recently, there has been an increasing interest in real estate in Bali from almost every corner of our planet, including, of course, Russia, the CIS, and so on. What is this related to? First and foremost, it is related to the increased capital profitability. This means that for every ruble invested, you can earn another ruble within a year. Here, the capital profitability is the highest, approximately 70–100% per annum. It is the #1 place in the world, both in terms of resale and rental. What other factors contribute to the increased attention people are giving to this island and the real estate here? This is due to the fact that a huge number of bloggers are talking about real estate here, discussing investments and sharing their lives, including Ksenia Sobchak and others, Varlamov and many, many more. Bloggers show that real estate in Bali is not something ephemeral and distant, but rather something very real, tangible, and that can be bought, resold, earned from, rented out, or lived in. Essentially, it is very, very versatile. And you know, in Bali, this is now being understood not only by ordinary investors, but also by developers. And so, recently in Bali, there has been an enormous number of what we might call no-name developers, emerging, who have built something somewhere, but have not built anything in Bali. And their prices are, of course, lower than those of the so-called market giants, as we all know very well. So, how can you avoid falling into the hands of fraudsters? How can you avoid being deceived? And how can you prevent losing your money? Because with any investment, our main goal is not so much to earn money as it is to preserve our capital. And we will talk about this in this video. They sing in chorus. Song in a foreign language. So, friends, as I already mentioned, more and more of these no-name developers are appearing in Bali, whom you don't know, whom no one knows here. They have absolutely no construction experience here in Indonesia. But this does not mean that they are all trying to deceive you, to cheat you, and so on. In other words, these are completely unrelated things. That is, among them, there are certainly those who will deceive you in any case, and those who will not deceive you and will complete everything perfectly. And how can you distinguish a normal developer from an abnormal one? I will try to explain this to you in this short video. But first and foremost, I strongly recommend subscribing to this channel for anyone interested in real estate in Indonesia, real estate in Bali, or investment opportunities. But in the end, we will briefly discuss the news about the Atmosfera residential complex, which we are building on Bukit, 300 meters from Melasti Beach. In general, this is our personal project, meaning that my team and I developed it and poured our hearts into it, but more on that later. So friends, what should we pay attention to first? As I already mentioned, the real estate market in Bali at the moment represents something like this. That is, there are whales, 4 to 5 developers who are not shy about setting high prices right from the start in their projects. Although they claim otherwise, it is unlikely that one can earn any significant money. In other words, you will earn there in any case. It is reliable. In any case. This is a name, this is experience, this is a brand. And these are interesting projects because many of the projects announced by these companies, the so-called whales of the market, are maximally ambitious, interesting, and will be in demand in the future. We will talk about how the market will be structured in 2, 3, 5 years in another video. For those interested, subscribe and stay updated. The second part of the market consists of new developers who have just entered the market, realizing that it is endlessly promising and interesting, and that money can and should be made here. Their prices are, of course, more affordable, and so on. Based on this difference, let's say, on such a dissonance in prices, many people are left wondering if this is a scam. I assure you, friends, in most cases it is not a scam because the cost of construction in Bali is very low. The cost of labor, materials, everything is really very low. If anyone thinks otherwise, you are mistaken, because we have thoroughly studied everything. The cost of materials, the cost of labor, the cost of services, design, and all other communications, everything, before starting our project. Therefore, I know exactly what I am talking about. Therefore, behind every word of mine lies months of study and gathering information specifically in this field. Therefore, those who say that everything in Bali is very expensive and costs as much as, for example, in Moscow or Dubai, are simply mistaken or are saying this intentionally to create a certain informational background around themselves or their project. So, what is the very first thing you really need to know about these very important developers? The first thing you should pay attention to is the type of land on which a particular complex is being built. Firstly, this indicates whether it is yellow land or red land, the so-called pink land, as it is referred to here. Pink land allows for short-term rentals, long-term rentals, and permits the construction of buildings with a larger footprint and greater height. Yellow land does not allow for construction and subsequent short-term rentals. In addition, you should pay attention to whether the developer has the necessary permits, including a construction permit, because throughout the entire construction process, 3 so-called construction permits or documents need to be obtained, and it is understandable that at this stage it may not be available, but the developer should at least know the process of obtaining it, and they should tell you that we are currently working on this, then we will have this, and then that. That is the second point. The third point is whether he plans to create a management company, rent it out, or if he is only selling and you will then manage your property as you wish, whether it be villas, townhouses, or leopards. That is, if he will manage and then rent it out on a short-term basis, has he possibly considered obtaining a hotel license? A license is required, without which neither short-term rentals nor advertising, not even advertising, my friends, is permitted. That is, if you do not have a hotel license, you cannot advertise your property anywhere. So, you understand, right? You can only rent it out, and first of all, you can only do so for a long term and without public advertising. It is also important to understand this. I'm not saying that he needs to have all these documents right now, right here on the table, because they are issued at different stages of construction. However, the developer must clearly know and tell me, we are building on this land, we will have a management company later, or there will be no management company, and you will manage it yourself. It is also worth paying attention to how much money you will have to give to this management company. It would be easiest if the developer explains to you, without veiling those hidden percentages and so on, but simply states, we receive this amount in our account after deducting the real estate aggregators, for example 100 rubles, conditionally. From these 100 rubles, we take, for example, 25%. This 25% includes taxes, maintenance, which means operational costs, cleaning, laundry, ironing, territory maintenance, staff, security, and minor repairs. There is minor repair, and the profits of failing companies. Here are those 25%, because 75% of that goes to you. What system will be there? Everyone has their own or a bullet system, meaning that regardless of whether your unit has been rented out or not, everything goes into a common pool, which is then distributed proportionally based on the square meters you own. If you own, for example, 2 machines of 50 square meters each, then you will have a total of 100 square meters. So you will have 0.02, which means 1.5 shares of the total profit. So, these nuances are what you need to know and understand when you approach a particular developer. And all of this needs to be set and discussed so that it doesn't come as a surprise later, you understand. It's also worth paying attention to the deadlines on construction timelines, because very few people actually know how long it takes to build a particular complex in general. In fact, typically it usually takes longer than expected. Let me put it this way, many. Just so you understand, many declare unrealistic timelines. This applies to most developers. I don't know why they do this, but probably because either they overestimate their capabilities, or if they were to state the actual construction timeline, no one would approach them. In our project, we state realistic timelines, meaning we allocate 2 years, even though the contractor tells us that everything will be built in 1.5 years. But I know that construction is a complex matter, my friends. How can I put it? At every stage of construction, foundation, walls, finishing work, furniture, decor, landscaping, there are certain shifts at each of these stages. In total, these 10, 15, 20% time shifts at each stage add up to several months. And that is why, when working with a contractor who promises to complete the project in 1.5 years, we add another 6 months. This is a realistic time frame, absolutely realistic. The contract must also include a clause regarding the liability, responsibilities, and obligations of the parties for non-fulfillment. That is, the responsibility of the parties regarding the developer, if he does not meet the deadline specifically, should be outlined, including how much he must pay within a certain period of time, and so on. And also the responsibility on your part, that is, your responsibility for the late payment of the installment under the contract. This is roughly what you should pay attention to first when you get acquainted with that problematic developer. Again, I say, friends, due to the huge number of so-called no-name, unknown developers that have appeared on the island, it is necessary to be very vigilant and attentive in order not to fall into the hands of fraudsters. There are also important points that, of course, many of you go through. Those who are savvy investors do this in any case. It is essential to check the company for compliance, whether the company has any debts, whether it has any liabilities, whether there are any payment delays on mandatory obligations, whether there are any loans, and whether the selected plot corresponds to the documents provided to you. To be continued, does it correspond to ownership? That is, does this company own this plot of land or not? Does the location on the map that the realtors are telling you about correspond to what is actually owned by this company? It is very important how many percent has been paid for the land. All these details are crucial because many people build in installments with an initial payment of even 10%. I'm not saying that it's bad, but I'm just saying that you need to pay attention to everything and weigh your risks. When we talk about investment real estate, the term risk-free is, in my opinion, an antonym. Any investment real estate is highly risky. And I think you know this without me. And nowhere, including Bali, Thailand, Turkey, or Dubai, unfortunately, do you have any guarantees. Therefore, you must clearly understand who you are dealing with, who they are, and so on. In the end, let's talk about our complex, the residential complex Atmosphere, which is being built here in Bukit. Currently, there are no active construction works taking place. We are in the process of preparing documents to obtain the initial construction permit. Construction is expected to start in about 2 months, give or take 2 to 2.5 months. So, what now? After this, you will start receiving reports on a regular basis directly from the construction site. There will be a camera installed there where you will be able to see everything live. This concerns our investors. In terms of work and atmosphere, currently we have sold 15 units and 4 townhouses. This is a good result. It's an excellent pace. For the units, we will have a price increase after 5 townhouses, meaning the price will be $130,000. At the moment, you have a great opportunity to buy high-yield investment real estate at a reasonable price, slightly below the market. Well, I believe that a developer who is just entering the market must, in any case, offer prices that are more attractive than those that have been here for several years or decades. Of course, there are no people here who have been here for decades, but those who have been here for several years can set prices as they wish. And without particularly delving into what others will think about them and who will be interested. No, friends, they simply set prices as they see fit and people buy them. Well, of course, the sales pace should not outpace the construction progress. Prices should correspond to profitability. In our project, which you can learn about, in many of my previous videos, there are views from the windows, sunsets, and the nearby ocean. For those who don't know, Melasti Beach is the best beach in Bali. In our complex, we have a proposal. When we take your apartments, whether they are villas or townhouses, into management, we guarantee a 12% return on your invested capital. That is, if you buy an apartment, for example, for $115,000 or for $130,000, let's say. About 20-30 other clients will buy at a very good, advantageous, investment attractive price, so go for it. I think that in a couple of months, if the price is at least $145,000, the investment attractiveness will be slightly reduced. There is a difference between $115,000 and this $145,000. Therefore, at that time, of course, the investment vulnerability will be slightly reduced. Well, here we go. But nevertheless, I say again, you invested at least $115,000 and we guarantee a minimum of 12% annual return on rent. Of course, it will be more, that's clear, because real estate in Bali brings in profits. Approximately, let's say roughly 17 to 20% of its value, which means a payback period of about 5 to 6 years. And this is the #1 indicator in the world. If we are talking about more expensive real estate, their profitability is certainly higher. This is especially true For those developers who set such inflated prices at the initial stage, for example, zoos 200 plus for instance, of course the profitability there will not be 17 to 20%, but rather 8-10%, or a maximum of 12%. That is why many of them cannot provide you with guaranteed returns, and only those developers who sell at truly fair prices offer this guaranteed return, and which allow earning both from resale and from renting out in different ways, such as through various methods. This is roughly what I wanted to talk to you about today. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you for watching the video until the end. That's all from me. If you have questions about real estate in Bali, if you want to check a particular developer, or if you have specific questions about our complex or the atmosphere, feel free to write or call. My phone number is on the screen. Also, if you click on the link in WhatsApp or Telegram in the first pinned comment, you will immediately join my chat. That's all for now. This was Pavel Morozov from the Balifornia channel, wishing everyone goodness, good luck and plenty of money. Goodbye everyone. Subtitles by Dima Borzov.